my name is Tiffany. I'm the owner of Fuzzy Roots Rare Plant Store. I'm based in South Africa and I live in a very tropical climate. We're currently in the middle of our winter, which is anything from 10 degrees up to, I would say some days are still 28 degrees. So we are not as cold as it would be in other provinces in South Africa. And we generally fall on the more tropical end of the scale. So I'm filming today in what I would call my hothouse. A lot of my propagations go in here. And from here we grow them out before they would go into a greenhouse environments. Today I wanted to show you a few of my Adansonii variegated. I have quite a few different forms of variegated Adansoniis, and I wanted to go through some of the growth habits, some of the problems that you can occur with these plants, and what to look out for and how to care for them. So let's get started. This would be your normal form Adansonii, variegated Adansonii elbow. So elbow means it's the white variegation, and this is actually a particularly nice plant because it is less than a 50% in white, meaning that the plant will be quite sustainable going forward and that it'll be able to produce enough chlorophyll to sustain its growth and it won't be too slow. This unfortunate crispy leaf happened on imports. You'll see the internodal spacing of this plant is quite close together, and it's not all one green. Some of them have different tones of green and different patterning on them, which I think is why most people really enjoy this plant, because every new leaf is a surprise and pattern of what you're going to get, and they are just gorgeous. If you've grown the green version of this plant, this is not much different. The only thing you need to be careful of is overwatering and underwatering. Overwatering tends to make the soft, crispy edges. That's more from overwatering. Underwatering, you would end up with a very dry, crispy plant. So this is definitely, I would say, a little bit of overwater happened here. But generally, I keep my plants in a peat moss and cocoa chip mixture. We do have a video on our soil mix if you are interested. I will put the link in here. And they get watered because it's so hot in here and humid. The humidity in this room is running between 70 and 80%, which is why they get watered, I would say, every 2 to 3 days. These plants get a good watering, and they tend to dry out rather fast. So this is what would be considered the regular Adansonii elbow. The leaves grow between 5 to 10 centimeters in length, and they don't really get much bigger than this, and they're nice and compact and bushy and will grow out beautifully for you. The next one I'm going to go through is the Japanese, some people call it the Japanese tricolor. I purchase most of my plants as imports, and the translation comes across as Japanese firecracker, which I'm sure is lost in translation between the Japanese tricolor, but they just say it's the large form Adansonii. Let me show you. So this is what we would consider to be a large form Adansonii. These leaves get between 15 to 20 centimeters. This particular plant, as you can see, it's still got a way to grow. It's at the very top of its pole, so it does need an extend. If you look, some of the leaves are crispy. I've had this plant for quite some time, and it does get a bright filtered light in here, a very bright light. And unfortunately, this is a very, very white version. I wouldn't recommend a plant as white as this. It's very hard to sustain without getting the crispy brown bits. And for further propagation, you might end up with a lot of white plants from your propagations. And unfortunately, those are doomed to die. They don't live. Those will, unfortunately, you not be able to produce any chlorophyll, and they will perish eventually. I think you would probably get few variegated versions, especially towards the bottom of the stem where it is more green. It is not, it's not so white. And the top section looks to me like it is going towards being all white. I'm praying that it doesn't. So unfortunately, I'm not really in a rush to cut this plant. I'm going to let it grow out as much as possible, because I'm presuming at some point it is going to go full elbow, and then I will have to cut it and try and see what I can get to salvage out of the rest of the plant. But it is a good example to show you how big these leaves get. They are beautiful. They're really, really beautiful. But if you look at that against my hand, they are really, really nice sized leaves. And they will keep getting bigger. This isn't as big as they get. So after talking to you about the Japanese large form, I do have another comparison which has also been going up a pole for some time. This is again the regular form. You can see the difference in the size of leaves. These are a lot more bushier, and the internodal spacing is a little bit shorter, but the leaves don't get as big as the large form. And this has got a better ratio of green to white on it. Unfortunately, the half moon is again not the best situation. I'm sure, as many of you know, looking for a plant, half moons are absolutely gorgeous and they're beautiful. But when you propagate it, you're going to get an all white plant, an all green plant, an all white plant, and all green plant, depending on where the nodes are. So if the node falls in the split between the green and white, you'll get another half moon. If it falls all white, if it falls all green, those propagations aren't going to be worth very much. After going through the regular form and the large form, I wanted to show you the Laniata SP elbow form. So this is what your Laniata form looks like. These get really big, and they get much bigger, especially when allowed to climb. This one has still got quite a lot of climbing to do. These leaves, I think, get around 20 centimeters, and they really do stand out quite a bit. You'll see it has quite a different look from the other Adansoniis. The leaves are supposed to be, what they say, more glossy, but in my opinion, the elbow is not more glossy. This is definitely a more matte finish, and it's not white. I would call it more of a cream color than a white, but they do come out showing the cream color, which is not the same characteristics as what you'd expect from an Aurea, but they're definitely more cream than they are white. But if you see these leaves, they're absolutely gorgeous, and they do get really, really big when allowed to climb. So I thought I would show you that form. Okay, so just before I move on to the next type of Adansonii, I thought I would show you, this is your normal form. This was an elbow Adansonii, and as you can see from this leaf, it had really sad variegation. It was a little bit like minty, but the next few leaves came out green, and it was kind of reverting, is what people would say. So just a small tip: if your plant does revert, don't give up all hope. You'll see at the bottom here, I cut between these two nodes, and this is actually the new plant that's come out from this node. There was nothing on this node, it was just buried, and this gave me, it's more of a minty type variegation. I wouldn't say it's all elbow. This was the first leaf, which was more white, and the second leaf is more green. And considering that the petiole is not very white, I have got hope that it's either going to stay a minty color, or it's going to come out with some nice variegation. This part, unfortunately, I've already cut it, but it did come back. The variegation did come back nicely, which is why I've removed this end piece and I'm propagating it to make a nice variegated plant. And then I cut this into single nodes in the hope that the new growth will come out with a little bit of variegation. Strangely enough, you cannot see the variegation on the stem. The stem is all green, so you can't tell where it would be variegated. It is all green in here, which doesn't, it's nice that obviously it's not going to go all white, but it does give me a few more chances in hopefully getting out some more variegated plants. So don't give up. If your plant does revert, don't give up. Cut it back, see what you can do, and spray it. I have been spraying mine with a 20% Novian solution, and I'm not sure if it's that. I can't testify that that was what made the variegation come back specifically. I had about 4 reverted plants that gave me variegation again. And pretty much what we do is I alternate between using Seagrow, which unfortunately smells really bad, and Novian, which we have listed on our website. I can put a link to some more information on here for you. We foliar spray with that once a week, and then we alternate a soil drench with the Seagrow. And yeah, a couple of plants did come back with good variegation after doing that. Maybe a fluke, it may be something else. I can't guarantee that your plants will unrevert doing that, but in my experience I had good feedback and a good experience using those products. Now, after we finished going through the elbow, I wanted to show you the Aurea. So when you think of an Aurea Adansonii, this is what you're looking at. Unfortunately, the Aurea does tend to crisp up a lot faster than the elbow. I don't know if it's light or feed, but you can see it's a lot crispier than the damage on the other one I showed you, which was maybe from overwatering. This plant, you'll see the new leaves come out more green and they Polaroid up. So the older leaves will look more yellow, cream color. The newer leaves will look more green, and then the variegation develops over time. Now, to show you the difference, a lot of my plants are sold to me from sellers just as Aurea Adansonii, and they don't really give me a difference in the species of Adansonii that it is. So I'm not sure if it's the same species. If you know, please let me know in the comments. But just to give you an idea of the size between the different plants, this one has a lot bigger leaves and a lot closer internodal spacing than this one. I don't know if it's just because of the way it's growing, but the leaves on this have been really a lot larger from the beginning. I don't know, maybe it's the stem size of the propagation. But again, you can see the new leaf, like this one over there, it comes out looking very green, and then it'll Polaroid change, going into a lighter lime and then a more yellow color, and then they will fade down from there. But this is a very rewarding plant, but you do need to be very careful on your light and your feed, because they do crisp a lot faster than the elbow version. These, I would say, are much harder to care for and keep looking good than the elbow variety, which is the white variety. Then lastly, we also have what we call the Adansonii Indonesian Mint, which is a little bit of a more different looking leaf. You'll see these leaves have a lot, I would say they have more pole in them than leaf, and you get ones with very good variegation. It kind of comes and goes. You'll notice on I think it's more, this is the older growth. The newer growth, which is this end, seems to be a little bit more variegated. I have got them in good lights. I do give them Novian and Seagrow, and they seem to be doing very well. This sad leaf down here, which I think I can just take off, this is from shipping. They do come off fairly easy to grow, easy to propagate. Overall, I would say this is a very easy plant to deal with. They do kind of grow out a little bit wonky in places. If the variegation is stronger on one side versus the other side, then it'll be a bit grown a bit lopsided. If the variegation is even throughout, it'll be a little bit more even sized. But these holes of the leaves are much bigger holes versus the elbow and the aurea, which have much smaller holes. This is definitely more hole than leaf, but not as much as an obliqua. It's got more leaf than an obliqua, but more hole than the regular Adansonii, if that makes sense. Very easy to grow plants, a little bit more inexpensive than your elbow and aurea, and I would say it makes for a very nice alternative price wise if you can't afford to go for the elbow. These also get much bigger in size. I've got one that's been growing underneath. Hold on for me a second. Just to show you, the leaf size of these do get a lot bigger. I do want to grow one up a pole and see, so it's a bit dusty, and see how much bigger I can get it if I grow it up a pole. But you can see the size of the leaf definitely increases a lot as it matures. So this is what you consider your Indonesian mint, which is quite a cool little plant. I really like this plant, and it's very easy to grow, very, very easy to grow. I want to go over some of the problems that you get with Adansonii specifically. So first of all, I don't have a huge issue with pests in my hothouse. It is fairly controlled. We do spray, and I have recently stopped spraying and I started using beneficial insects. The only thing I found is spider mites in here, and they don't bother the Adansonii at all. I see they go more for the velvety leaf alocasia and the velvety leaf philodendron more than what they do for the Monstera. I hardly ever find them on the Monsteras. So pest wise, for me, they are not a problem. I know some people do battle with, I think it's whitefly, but that's in other countries. And I think thrips, if you do have a thrip problem, they do go for, especially the aurea, because of the yellow color, they are drawn to the yellow. So keep that in mind when choosing which plant you want and your environment. Then a lot of people that look at the Adansonii, specifically the Indonesian mint, when they first came out, there was a big debate over whether it had a virus or not because of the way the leaves develop, and they were tested and found not to have a virus, and that is just the way they grow. Now recently I imported a batch of Adansonii, variegated and aurea, the elbow and aurea, and two of the plants that arrived looked fairly suspicious to me for Adansonii's Mosaic Virus. So we immediately isolated those plants and put them aside, and we removed some of the leaves and sent them away to our what is called the Stellenbosch plant clinic, which is a laboratory based in Cape Town that does virus testing on all the agricultural crops and nursery crops in South Africa. You can send your plants there to get tested. So I want to show you why I suspected these plants may have Adansonii's Mosaic Virus. If you've had experience with Adansonii's Mosaic Virus, you'll see that you'll get like feathering, variegation, puckering, deformities, leaves that don't fully unfurl, and the leaves generally look very puckered and not as smooth as they would. See, if you're looking at this plant, it's a bit deformed. The leaf has got pits and puckers in it. The variegation is a little bit feathery, and overall it made me concerned. This one and this one were definitely concerns. These leaves are not as bad. You can see kind of like the feathering type of variegation that's coming in there. It's not the normal, what you would normally expect, and the leaf is very puckered. So the leaves that were looking worse than this leaf were chopped off and sent away for virus testing. Now, luckily, we've received the virus test back, and it is negative for any Adansonii mosaic virus. It's negative for tobacco mosaic virus, and it's negative for that whole group of viruses. We're linking it below, so you can see the name of the group of viruses, which is linked to Adansonii and tobacco mosaic virus. Once we got the negative result that it's not a virus, we've had to do a little bit of research into what can possibly cause plants to look like this and mimic what we would think is a virus or symptoms of a virus. And we haven't got a definitive answer on what could be causing this, but some of the theories include when they are exported, they all get sprayed, and these plants may have been at the bottom of the box and pooled, been left in like a pool of insecticide for too long, which could have caused them to have this reaction. It could be a nutrient deficiency, although for me, I don't really see why. We do give them a slow release fertilizer. They are all treated the same on arrival. All my plants get the same treatment, so I don't know why some would look like this versus others. So for me, I'm leaning more towards overuse of insecticide or pesticide in a systemic pesticide, or insecticide or fungicide, which could have done this reaction. They don't have pests on them. They don't have fungus on them. So it is a little bit puzzling. If you know why they look like this versus looking normal, and I mean, I have so many. If you look at the difference between what a normal one would look like versus how this is coming out, even these ones, the leaves are so puckered and buckled, and yet they've all had very similar treatment. If you know why it does this and mimics what would look like a virus, let me know. Please let us know in the comments. But at least we know definitively, because I resell and I do have quite a large nursery, and I have a lot of plants, and especially a lot of valuable plants. I couldn't take the chance of not sending it away for testing. So for me, peace of mind was more important, knowing that I don't have a virus in my greenhouse, which is why I've sent it away. Which we're very lucky to say we don't have a virus, and it is something else, which if we do find out, we will definitely make another video on. But I wanted to say thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like my content, and hopefully we'll see you again next time.